We are all hoping this podcast works, because if it doesn't...
I don't know if it's weather, you took a day off, things change. Can't expect technology to just work.
Nope. Booted up, Paul called Paul, couldn't hear him, could see him, but I could see that there was no audio coming in, and can't explain it, just reset the computer, even though it was off, and then now things kind of...
tenuous at best, but we'll make do.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, Paul Thurrott, so I had jury duty yesterday.
How was that?
It was, I'll tell you what. Hamilton County does a good job with their jury duty. They have this thing figured out. They even inject some humor, which they had probably the perfect individual for this job. Mm-hmm. And he gets to tell the same joke probably every day of his life, and everybody laughs because it's perfect. Because it's at 8:30 a.m. He walks up to the podium and in front of the room and says, "Good morning to everyone who couldn't get out of jury duty." And that's just how he starts it off.
Yep, that's good.
And so I'm a little annoyed for personal reasons. I'll tell you why here, Paul. They're out. Mm-hmm. So they call people down, like you get the thing in the mail, and it's court order. It's like jury duty. You got to go unless you have like a whatever. And so I go down there, do my thing, and on the jury that we were on, which was a criminal case, or potentially on, it's 12 people, 2 alternatives, so they need 14 people. Mm-hmm. They call a group of, I think it's 34 people, to go sit through jury processing because some people get voted off the island. Like you don't get selected for whatever reason. Sure. I think the lawyers can pick 4 people each and don't even have to give a reason, like you're gone. And then they have like unlimited number of, like, if you came in and say I was a police officer and I had arrested that individual 9 years ago, I can't be in, like, then they can get off. Anyway, So there's it's like 34 something people in there. And before you go in, you fill out a piece of paper, like your name, like, are you married? Like a little profile of yourself so the lawyers can look at it and try to, because people who aren't aware, putting people on a jury is a very serious thing because you want to try to get people who are sympathetic to your cause, so then you're more likely to win the case. And so you fill out this form, it goes to the lawyers, and then they call all of us over, and they put you in a number, like a list, like a ranking. Mm-hmm. Out of 34 people, Paul, 34.
Yep.
I was 32 out of 34.
Now, I'm amazed that you know that, right? Well, I'm surprised they would even tell you that.
Well, they didn't tell me. I figured it out.
Oh.
Because what happens is we were lined up, and like they call your name, and like you're
lined up.
Yeah.
Like at Nuremberg?
Yeah. Like, well, to go into the courtroom,
I see,
because they want you to sit in a specific...
more like at Disneyland. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because when one person got voted off the island, the next person in line, like, left their bench and went up. So you could do the math and, like, I'm 2 from the end. And so those lawyers determined that I would be a terrible juror.
I mean, are you sure it wasn't just alphabetical?
I'm absolutely positive it wasn't alphabetical, because I asked the guy...
Because now you don't know why, though, right?
No,
Is it your libertarian views? Your
it's because I do a podcast and they like it.
Multi-god universe that you live in. What did it?
I don't know, but they wouldn't tell me why I was number 32. But like, soon as I realized what was going on, I was like, I'm not getting on this thing.
Yeah, I hope to. Yeah, I'm trying to decide my best strategy for getting out of this myself. When
apparently just be yourself, and society hates you. And
yeah. It's like I'll be like, I have been the subject of several TikTok exposés, that kind of thing.
Paul, I want to point out that I lost to somebody who literally wrote on the form, because the last question is, would you be a good juror? And I wrote, I don't know, which was an honest answer.
Oh, that's awesome.
But no. Here's what made me angry. Is so when you get, like, they question all the jurors, and then they will, like, look at your sheet and ask you questions about your responses. One of the people who was in front of me wrote, I would be a bad juror.
Like, that's awesome. And they were like, we need this guy.
And they were in front of me, but they didn't make it through. Like, they got put on the jury, and then one of the lawyers were like, no, you're not doing this.
Wow.
So then I'm just sitting there thinking, like, man.
So this could have been, if you had gotten selected, you could have been gone for like weeks.
They expected this one to last 3 days.
Okay.
3 to 4 days.
Okay.
So the trial
That's still,
starts.
that's quite an imposition.
Yeah.
Are you allowed to do anything during this time? I
Nope.
mean, you can't have a computer. Or,
Nope.
You know.
Nope. I just had to sit there in this courtroom for a few hours. Like,
See,
if you
this is
think
going
of
to be the hard thing for me.
church pew is uncomfortable, the pews that we were in, I guess I'm gonna call it pews, were worse than church pews.
Sure.
But now, I will tell you though, it is really, like, I've never done this. So this was, while it was horrendous to sit on this bench, it was pretty interesting to see, because you could put together the case.
Yeah.
That the prosecutor, because that's how it works, prosecutor has to make the case. You could put together the case as he was asking specific questions to the juror. Now, when you're on a jury, you're not supposed to talk about it, but I'm not on it. I don't know anything else from the
Let's
case.
talk about it. What kind of case was it?
So it was felonious assault with a weapon.
Oh, yikes.
It's a pretty serious case. Now, here's the thing: is again, lawyers probably listening going, "You can't talk." Like, I don't know any of the facts of the case. We didn't get into the case.
Yeah.
But they kept asking both sides multiple times, can you be guilty by association? Multiple times to the jury.
By association.
Yes.
So this might not have even been the person that assaulted the other person. They might have been an associate, if you will, of that
Correct.
person.
Because they
Maybe they drove them there understanding that this might happen or something.
They kept asking the question in various angles, but to put it into perspective, they kept asking and drilling into it.
Well, I got to tell you, when the jackboot thugs come to get me, you will be guilty by association.
Well,
so, you know.
Right. But they kept asking through various lenses. Like, let's say you're in a car accident and you're in the passenger seat and the driver hits somebody and then drives away. Would you call the police? Like, these are it was don't write it off, because it is pretty interesting. Now, I'm not saying I want to sit on a jury for multiple days listening to all this, but hearing how they were setting up the case was.
See, that's a bizarre line of questioning to me, because that act, if like that example you used is actually kind of perfect. That person in the passenger seat who might have complained at the time, but then never gone to the police and whatever. There will be a law in your jurisdiction that covers this, whether it's at the, county or state or whatever level. Yep. I mean, that is or is not guilty. We can discuss whether or not we think it's morally right,
That's
but
the
I mean,
case.
I would imagine this is covered. Like, this is not something that just came up this
well,
week.
that's the analogy these. I don't know what the facts of the court case are.
But I mean, that's a good example, because that establishes what that means. Like, what I'm saying is, wherever this was a county level thing, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, this is either illegal or it isn't.
Yep.
Then so if it isn't technically illegal, what they're really asking you is, well, we could still find him guilty of something here, if you guys don't like it.
So the part that we didn't get to is that the judge would eventually read the law that the state of Ohio is charging this individual for breaking. So we didn't get into that. We didn't see. This is all assumption, because I don't even know what.
Right.
Like, we don't know the scenario. There were multiple witnesses that were going to be called. This was a pretty. Now, for the first time in my life, I'm actually somewhat interested to see how this court case plays out and see what the jury's like.
Court is fascinating. I observed one day, for some reason, I sat in on people being sentenced or, hearings, one at a time. It wasn't like a case. It was like a series of cases. I don't even remember why I was there. I think I was there for some traffic related thing and I had time to kill or something. I just sat in on this stuff, but honestly, it's very, well, that's why, I mean, court TV shows and movies are huge, right? I mean, it's that whole process, I think, is fascinating.
Yeah. So anyways, long story short, I don't have jury duty today because we're recording this, but technically I could have it any day up for the next.
Oh, because you're an alternate, perhaps, or
I'm not an alternate for this case, but I'm still in. So the way it works
you're in
is
the batter's deck.
Not even that. I'm like in the bullpen of the reserve team, because there's multiple pools. Like, I was pool number 421. Like, today they called 422 and 423, and then on Wednesday they said they'll call 424. The where I could get pulled back in is if on Wednesday a bunch of cases come in and 424 doesn't have enough people to fill it, then potentially I could get called back in.
Well, if you're right, though, about you being so low on the list, I think you would be low on that list. Well, maybe not, because I guess it's a different case.
It would be a different, like, it could be a civil, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So
it could be completely different.
So fingers crossed, I'm potentially done with my jury duty. Like, done the civic duty, did what I was supposed to do, and won't get called back. On the other hand,
if you do get called back, I recommend wearing sandals and a muumuu or something, and oversized sunglasses.
And a muumuu. That was not on today's bingo card.
Just look like a jerk.
Yeah, not on the bingo card. A muumuu. You're a muumuu. Anyways, things that might be relevant to some people is Apple is apparently delaying. Well, so I feel like we hear this every year. It's like blood pressure, they're delaying the sensor on the Apple Watch until at least next year. So
look, I'll put myself in the awkward position of defending Apple here. The Apple world is one that is awash in rumors about things that are coming. We've been hearing about this new MacBook Air for a year and a half. This is all we talk about. Last year, the big rumor was all the M2 based Macs we were going to get, and then they don't even have an M2. They have these other things, obviously, but these things all, they get pushed back. And it's like Apple delays something. It's like Apple hasn't delayed anything. They've never announced anything. Like, from their perspective, this must be infuriating. So this is like so many things in life. It's like there's a demand for this information. People write these stories months or years in advance about something we're not going to see anytime soon. People get excited, and then they get disappointed when the next story. It's like this self-replicating cycle of nonsense. So, yeah, one day you'll be able to check your blood pressure with an Apple Watch and probably other devices. No doubt about it. One day Theranos might have solved that blood problem, or someone else would have, right? I'm sure there's no doubt. It's no doubt about it. It will happen, But we we exist in an industry that just talks about this nonsense over and over again. Like I can't, I don't know. This is me getting old. I think I just care about the things that I have and that work, and I don't care about the things that may or may not come in the future or when the exact timing of those things is. Who cares?
You got any opinions on birdseed?
I missed a huge opportunity. I was telling my wife a couple of these stories this morning. I was sitting in the parking lot in front of the hardware store when I picked up that window, and it was this is so stupid. I didn't take a picture of it. There were mini bales, like if you think about a bale of hay.
Yeah,
these were about like 1/4 or 1/6 or whatever of that size. They were wrapped in plastic, and they were labeled straw. And I thought about it and I went to take a picture of that and just send it to you and be like, "See, we were wrong. It's straw."
I will tell you, this is random.
No opinions on birdseed.
Random aside, I'm strongly against it. If you put like grass seed down, don't cover it with straw in your yard. Don't do it.
Let me tell you something. Everyone does that here, and it works. Like it looks ridiculous for some number of weeks. And actually, I mean, this is random, but in the very area we were walking when I just told my wife the story about the straw, actually, this is not random. I probably what made me think of it. There's a huge area of straw. They had done construction on this. It's actually not a house, but we'll call it a house. And where the trucks had gone back and forth was all dirt. And they filled it in with straw. It's been straw like all spring. It looks terrible. And then today we walked by and the grass is all sprouting up through. It looks great. It's going to look, you can tell it's going to look great.
Yeah, I'm anti-straw.
I never heard of this before until I moved here.
Yeah, people do it. Some people think or believe that it helps keep birds away, keeps moisture.
That's my assumption. Yeah.
What I do is you put it down, put down your seed or whatever, and then just put a little topsoil on top of it. You're fine.
So what we used to do in New England back in the day, because this is such a New England thing, because everyone had extras of these for some reason. We would put down screen doors.
What?
Right? Because back in the day, you would actually take the screen door off and have a glass door.
Yeah. And
you would have these extra doors that would just screen windows, and you would lay them down. Or if you just had the screen panels, you just put those down. And that would also keep the birds. I know it's stupid. It doesn't make what I said makes no sense. I'm just telling you that's what we did because we were frugal New Englanders or something. I don't know. Brain damaged. I don't know.
That's a new one to me.
Yeah. No, I know, but straw. I'd never heard of straw. Like I've never seen. No one never put straw in anything where I lived and when I grew up. Never saw that.
I just imagine you and your wife driving on. Look at these idiots using straws. They could have used doors.
Well, no. See, I never liked the door thing either, but. I don't know what you do. Like, it's like we obviously need to stop the birds from, I guess, as simple as putting a little topsoil is actually the smartest thing we've heard in this story.
Top tier technology podcast. Let me tell you. The other fun thing, just because we did chat yesterday, was Microsoft's baffling decision to admit that moving the taskbar around and augmenting the taskbar.
So I very much didn't want to make fun of the person that announced this to the world, and now I will, now that I'm on camera, because you have to watch this video if you haven't, because this is such a perfect example of like faux caring about anything that I've ever seen. This poor woman who had to say this actually makes this gesture, and she's like, she puts her hands to her chest. And she's like, "We care so much about the feedback," and then she's like, "Yeah, we're not doing it."
Well, here's the thing, Paul, that I still have yet to figure out.
Yeah,
and like maybe dear listener will be able to explain this. Okay. So Microsoft wanted to rebuild the taskbar. They clearly had a reason for this.
Oh, and you want to know what that reason is, right?
Yes. Like, is it performance?
Okay, so again, watch
security?
the video. This is what they said. The same woman, probably, right? She said it was more performant.
What?
Yeah, it would be. It doesn't do anything. What does that even mean? Now, it's possible. I don't know anything about the structure of the taskbar, how they created it, how long ago. You know, it's unlikely that the taskbar in any version of Windows today is based on the one from Windows 95, like 27 years ago, whatever that is. But I think it's fair to say there's a lot of legacy code in there. I mean, and there's a lot of cruft is something that occurs everywhere in Windows. But if you think about the taskbar and all the things, there could be traces of like I don't remember what it was called, the little quick launch area that used to be there over the corner before we could just launch everything from the main area. There's all this stuff related to the task notification area, additional toolbars, and they're all probably coded in different languages and frameworks. And I'm sure it's a freaking mess. I'm sure it is, but all of Windows is a mess. I mean, so starting over from scratch it sounds great, but this is just the latest in a million examples in personal technology. When you create something new that emulates the thing that you're replacing or does the same thing and whatever does other stuff, you're going to lose stuff. Like you just lose stuff. And, Microsoft's reliance on telemetry to make all of its decisions is dumb. I published an article about the very earliest signs of Windows 8. I had received some leaked information in 2010, I think it was. And App Store was part of it. New app model. They weren't sure which way they were going to go. They were talking about HTML and JavaScript. They were talking about web apps. They call them tailored web apps. And they did do something like that. They did other things, right? But one of the things that's in there that's really interesting was an explanation of why enthusiasts were so important, even though they were such a small portion of the audience. And that's what we've lost, right? I think in this march, you go down this line where you're like, we're going to center everything on telemetry, but this other data is still really important, these other feedback points. And then they got rid of their testers. Remember, everyone talks about that. They had the Insider program. There were 16 million people that beta tested Windows 8. And I don't remember the number for Windows 7, but it was slightly lower. I don't remember. There is a number out there, maybe 12 million something. We know, you and I, that at one point the number of active beta testers for like Windows 10 was like 1 million.
Yeah,
like it was way less. And I think I don't know the cause and effect, but I think part of the problem is when you stop listening to the audience that maybe should be weighted a little higher, which Microsoft used to completely understand, you lose track of the heartbeat of the community or whatever. I mean, their over-reliance on telemetry data is their downfall. This is a huge mistake. It's a huge mistake.
So if I had one guess why they had to rebuild the taskbar, just knowing from what I know working at Startup, my guess is that to be able to put the start menu in the center like they wanted to, that
required a new taskbar.
That required some more specifically, the fact that the start button moves as you open and close apps, it moves across there. That is my guess as to why they had to go this route.
That's interesting. Okay. Well, I mean, look, I feel very strongly about this, that if you're going to make this kind of a change, Windows 11 should have come out this coming fall. They could have spent a year testing it. They could have spent a year. They would have released the beta, and everyone would have been like, "Oh my God, it doesn't do all this stuff." Yeah. Don't worry, we're hitting it back. We're bringing it back. It's a beta. We're going to bring it back, and a lot of it will be based on feedback, of course, and a lot of it will be, an understanding of we had certain functionality. We're going to do that. So we're going to let you put it on the sides of the screen. We're going to let you right click and do stuff. We're going to, let you maybe toolbars go away. Like maybe there are things that do go away because it's like the quick launch, whatever that was called. I don't think it was called quick launch, but whatever that little thing. Before you could have shortcuts to non-running applications on the taskbar, they had a little quick launch, someone will know the real name, right next to the start button, little icons. And you could launch stuff from there. It was quick, and then they added that to the main taskbar. Maybe we're at the point now where the extensibility of the taskbar is not important.
Maybe.
It's too much. Maybe we could have that discussion. But I think I don't know, they've made some bad decisions here. And they rushed it to market for reasons I don't understand.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like there wasn't a chip shortage made getting a PC harder.
Well, it's not like they made the holiday selling period either. So just wait till the next one.
Yeah.
You didn't benefit the PC industry. It was already being propped up by the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Why not deliver that bonus when that's not happening anymore?
Maybe that's what they'll use Windows 12 for.
Oh, Microsoft.